Using your historical reference, I returned at the time of the caveman, operating as a speaker. Now, I have always been a speaker, regardless of my physical occupation. I have been a spice merchant in Denmark, where I knew Rupert and Joseph. In several lives I was black, once in what is now called Ethiopia, and once in Turkey. My lives as monks followed my experience my lives as monks, followed my experience as a pope. And in one of these, I was a victim of the Spanish Inquisition. My experience in female lives varied from that of a plain Dutch spinster to a courtesan at the time of the biblical David, to several existences as a humble mother with children. Now, when I began contacting Rupert and Joseph, I hid from them the fact of my numerous lives. Rupert, in particular, did not accept reincarnation, and the idea of such multiple life experiences would have been highly scandalous to him. The times and names and dates are not nearly as important as the experiences, and they are too numerous to list here. However, I will see at some time that these are made fully available. Some have been given in Rupert's class sessions, and some, though few, have appeared in the Seth material itself. In a book on reincarnation, I hope to have each of my previous personalities speak for themselves, for they should tell their own story. You should understand, therefore, that those personalities still exist and are independent. While what I am once seemed to be contained within those personalities, I was but the seed for them. In your terms, I can remember who I was. In greater terms, however, those personalities should speak for themselves. Perhaps you will see an analogy here when you compare the situation with age regression under hypnosis. Those personalities are not locked up inside of what I am, however. They have progressed according to their own fashion. They are not negated. In my terms, they coexist with me, but in another layer of reality. In several lives, I was consciously aware of my past existences. Once as a monk, I found myself copying a manuscript that I myself had written in another life. Often I was given to the love of weight and possessed it. Twice I died of starvation. I always found my deaths highly educational, in your terms, afterwards. It was always a lesson between lives to trace the thoughts and the events that led to a given demise. None of my deaths surprised me. I felt during the process the inevitability, the recognition, even a sense of familiarity. Of course, this particular dying is mine and no other, and I accepted even the most bizarre circumstances then, feeling almost a sense of perfection. The life could not be finished properly without the death. There is a great sense of humility and yet a great sense of exultation as the inner self senses its freedom when death occurs. All my deaths were the complement of my lives, in that it seemed to me that it could not be otherwise. If I chose, in your terms, I can relive any portion of those existences, but those personalities go their own way. On a subjective level, I acted as a teacher and a speaker in each of my lives. In a few highly intuitive existences, I was aware of this fact. You do not understand as yet the high importance of the underside of consciousness. Beside your objective role in each life, your reincarnational challenges also involve your dream states, rhythms of creativity that flow and ebb beneath the daily world you know. So I became highly proficient in this way as a speaker and a teacher in several lives that were externally uninteresting by contrast. My influence, work, and concern in such cases was far more vast than my quiet, objective pursuits. I give you this information hoping to help you understand the true nature of your own reality. My reincarnational existences do not define what I am, however, nor do yours define you. The soul knows itself and is not confused by terms of definitions. Through showing you the nature of my own reality, I hope to teach you the nature of your own. You are not bound to any category or corner of existence. Your reality cannot be measured any more than mine. I hope to illustrate the function of consciousness and personality through writing this book and enlarging your concepts. Now, I began by telling you that I was dictating this material through the auspices of a woman of whom I was quite fond. Let me now tell you that there are other realities involved. The following paragraphs will be written by another personality who stands relatively in the same position to me as I stand to the woman through whom I am now speaking. We are the voices who speak without tongues of our own. We are sources of that energy from which you come. We are creators, yet we have also been created. We seeded your universe as you seed other realities. We do not exist in your historical terms, nor have we known physical existence. Our joy created the exaltation from which your world comes. Our existence is such that communication must be made by others to you. Verbal symbols have no meaning for us. Our existence is not translatable. We hope our intent is. In the vast infinite scope of consciousness, all is possible. There is meaning in each thought. We perceive your thoughts as lights. They form patterns. Because of the difficulties of communication, it is nearly impossible for us to explain our reality. Know only that we exist. We send immeasurable vitality to you and support all of those structures of consciousness with which you are familiar. You are never alone. We have always sent emissaries to you who understand your needs. Though you do not know us, we cherish you. Seth is a point of my reference in our reference. He is an ancient portion of us. We are separate but united. Always the spirit forms the flesh. We will continue. There are kinds of consciousness that cannot be deciphered in physical terms. The personality who originated the paragraphs you have just read is such a one. As mentioned, there is the same kind of connection between that personality and myself as the one that exists between Rupert and myself. But in your terms, Seth, too, is far further divorced from my reality than I am from Rupert's. You can imagine Seth, too, as a future portion of me if you prefer, and yet far more is involved. I am myself using simple terms here to try and make these ideas clearer. In a trance state, Rupert can contact me. In a state in some way similar to a trance, I can contact Seth too. We are related in ways quite difficult to explain. United in webs of consciousness. My reality includes then not only reincarnational identities, but also other gestates of being that do not necessarily have any physical connections. The same applies to each reader of this book. The soul is open-ended, therefore. It is not a closed spiritual or psychic system. I've tried to show you that the soul is not a separate, apart from you thing. It is no more divorced from you than capital God is. There is no need to create a separate God who exists outside your universe and separate from it. Nor is there any need to think of a soul as some distant entity. God, or all that is intimately a part of you. His energy forms your identity, and your soul is a part of you in the same manner. My own reincarnational personalities, probable selves, and even Seth too, exist within me now as I exist within them. In your terms, Seth too is more advanced. In your terms, he is more alien, since he cannot relate to your physical existence as well as I do, because of my background in it. Still, my experience enriches Seth too, and his experiences enrich me to the extent that I am able to perceive and translate them for my own use.